Opposing the Imam, the legacy of Nawasib in Islamic literature, was an eye-opening and thought-provoking read. But before we get into it, what does it signify when someone is said to be of the Nawasib? I have always been under the assumption that it was used as a pejorative when describing Sunni Muslims only. But I got the impression from your book that the label is not exclusively for Sunnis. So what is the technical definition behind the term Nawasib?
Thank you. So I would say until today, it can be viewed as a pejorative term that Shiis use for Sunnis, right? You'll find that in some sectarian spaces, but you also have Sunnis who recognize naṣb and nawāṣib when you look at Sunni historians like Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani or those, or like Dhahabi, if they mention it in passing, that there were Umayyads or there were Uthmanis that where this term fit them. And so in terms of what are the nawāṣib, the term naṣb is, you could say, a synonym for bughd, hatred or contempt, specifically for Ali ibn Abi Talib and his family. And so in what this book looks at or considers is that in the first 3 centuries of Islamic history, you had people in the Levant, so let's say Palestine, Syria, Jordan, that area, where the Umayyads established a stronghold. You had people in North Africa, you had people in Egypt who could be described as nawāṣib, those who held Ali and his family in contempt, meaning, and also in the Hijaz, I should say, in Mecca and Medina. And so in terms of their political affiliations, many were Uthmani, and this is a term that many people have never heard of. So the Uthmaniyya in English, I would say, are those who are pro-3 caliph. What does that mean? That they believe that the first 3 caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, were rightly guided caliphs, but after that, that there were none. And so this was an early position that took time to evolve into a 4 caliph theory. But the original position was a 3 caliph one. And so you had Uthmanis who believed that, and that when Ali came to power, that he made a claim that was false, that there was a time in which there was no caliph, there were multiple claimants. So it wasn't just Ali who was claiming that position, but you had Talha and Zubair and Aisha who represented a political bloc, and they rejected that claim of his. You had the Umayyads, the family of Uthman ibn Affan, who was the caliph, the 3rd caliph who had been assassinated. And so they viewed Ali and his family and those who supported him as individuals who wanted Uthman dead, and so were culpable in his death in one way or another, either directly or indirectly. So they rejected his claim. And then you had those who originally viewed Ali as a legitimate caliph, but then mutinied against him and went a different path. And so these are those who seceded from his army. They're known as the Muhakkima or the Khawarij. And so they condemn him as well as an illegitimate ruler after he had been a legitimate one who came, meaning he came to power legitimately, but eventually he was someone whom they disassociated from and said was illegitimate. And so that the Nawasib were made up of these 3 political factions, as far as I can tell, in early Islamic history. And people recognize that. And so if you were a Hadith scholar that came from the Levant, from these geographic regions, or you were tied to one of those 3 political factions, if you were a Hadith transmitter tied to one of these political factions, you were likely either from the Nawasib, you held these nāṣibī beliefs, or maybe you moderated it after a couple centuries, and so that you didn't publicly curse Ali or claim that he was evil, but you still viewed him as an illegitimate caliph and someone who made mistakes and was problematic.
Now concerning the Uthmaniyya, and I couldn't help but notice